I made a video about Battlefield 1 in 2022, so I thought it was time now, towards the end of 2023, to come back into BF1 in order to see how it's doing about 7 years after release. I went onto Steam and bought the game once more, since I can't retrieve my old Origin account where I have some of the older Battlefield games. Good thing for me though, there was a really good ongoing sale at that point of time that is unfortunately over now when it comes to the Battlefield series. So I was able to get Battlefield 1 for only €4 or dollars. Battlefield 1 was released in October 2016 on PC, Xbox and PlayStation 4. It was a commercial success for DICE and EA, selling over 15 million copies back then. And still up to this day, Battlefield 1 is a good, fun and immersive World War I FPS experience, both when it comes to the single player and multiplayer. It was also praised by the critics for its visuals and sound design. So how is it then to come back a year later, since I last played Battlefield 1 in 2022? For me it feels refreshing, since I've played some newer FPS titles recently alongside with Battlefield 2042, which is the newest title in the Battlefield franchise. Some of these games, and especially Battlefield 2042, isn't near to the immersive gameplay and gunplay experience you'll get when playing Battlefield 1. In my book. In short terms, Battlefield 1 is one of the best FPS games made in modern times, especially when talking about the multiplayer experience. For me, Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 4 are my two favorites in the series, although Bad Company 2 still has a very special place in my heart, since that's when I started to play the Battlefield series overall, and also when I started to play as a sniper on a more consistent basis when it comes to online multiplayer games. Add to the fact also that games such as BF4, BF1 and also BF5 that was released in 2018 has gotten a bit of a renaissance, meaning getting more players both coming back to these games but also new players trying them out for the first time, thanks to good sale offers such as the one I mentioned earlier on Steam. So what makes Battlefield 1 a good FPS game then? Well, for me it's the whole package. The game has great visuals, even though I'm currently playing the game with an old and kind of crappy graphics card. DICE has also always, or at least most of the time, been very good when it comes to sound design as well, so that plays an important role when it comes to the feel of being on the battlefield in World War I, when a building is exploding thanks to destructible environments, or when you're making your way through the trenches during some heavy rocket barrage. Alongside with that, I like the gunplay and the actual guns in BF1, not only from a sniper's perspective, but overall, since I do play around more often with other classes nowadays as well, using weapons such as bolt-action rifles, submachine guns, automatic and semi-automatic rifles and flamethrowers. Well, in BF1 they also revoked the melee combat, with DICE introducing new melee weapons such as sabers, trench clubs and shovels into the game. But even though DICE experimented a bit, introducing some new stuff in the game, Battlefield 1 still has that Battlefield vibe that I do believe got lost a bit on the way when it comes to the newest titles in the series. Because Battlefield 1 can be a colorful and cool looking experience, but also gritty with dirt on your gun and bodies flying across your path due to explosions. Add to that a nice variety of game modes, classics such as Conquest and Rush, but also a newer game mode that I enjoy to play called War Pigeon. And thanks to the boost of new players and some returning veterans recently, the player count regarding the multiplayer has gone up as well. We can get a hint of that when just checking the Steam charts briefly. The biggest peak the recent years was from November 2022 up to the beginning of 2023. However, the last 2 months has been looking pretty good for Battlefield 1. Once again, this is Steam only. With around 6.6 or 7.6k players on average. Not bad for a 7 years old game, I would say. So it is still a good time to get into Battlefield 1 if you still haven't played it before. Check out for a sale or join Xbox Game Pass or EA Play instead if you want to give it a go. I mentioned new things in the game, and I therefore wanted to mention that DICE created a campaign mode with larger and more open environments than those in previous installments in the franchise. And that gives the player some more options and choices in terms of paths to complete levels and also how to approach combat. Players can control several characters in the campaign. As an example, if the player dies in the prologue, they will then take control of another soldier and roll instead of reloading from a checkpoint. The game's multiplayer mode supports up to 64 players, and the new squad system in Battlefield 1 allows a group of players to enter and leave game servers together, which is convenient to say the least. The multiplayer maps are based on locations around the world, including Arabia, the Western Front and the Alps. And if you get DLC, you can also play on the Eastern Front. The multiplayer is depending heavily on teamwork, as it should be in a Battlefield game, and therefore has the traditional infantry classes such as Assault, Medic, Support and Scout, and that's definitely a reason why it depends heavily on teamwork. If you're into vehicles, you can play as a tanker or pilot or cavalry, meaning spawning on a horse. There's also some pickup classes, you might say, on the maps that can be really helpful for your team. A flame trooper kit, sentry kit, tank hunter kit, trench raider kit and infiltrator kit. So keep your eyes open for those kits, both offering great attacking possibilities but also defend possibilities. There's of course also things that aren't appreciated or more on the negative side of things when it comes to games such as Battlefield 1 as well. It's been talk about everything from elite classes, how the matchmaking works or doesn't work. Some guys like the gunplay in older Battlefield games more. Some guys dislike how the battle pack system works in Battlefield 1. There's nade spam also, which is a thing even in Battlefield 1, can you believe it? And the list can go on, depending also who you're asking. And as always, the more you play a game, the more you will eventually encounter the flaws in the game as well. So again, it's mostly personal preferences, what you like or not. So it would therefore be nice, but also interesting to hear from you what you think about Battlefield 1. Maybe also in comparison with some of the other titles in the series, such as Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 5 for that sake. I'm glad though that I got back into Battlefield 1 again, since it still feels entertaining for me. Pretty sure I'll continue to play it now and then alongside with some other games of mine as well. Overall, I'm glad to see that some of these older Battlefield games are still getting some traction, especially also for a new generation of FPS gamers. With that said, I also hope that DICE and EA are able to make another great Battlefield title for the future to come, although it seems as if they will and want to continue to follow up the style of a game they designed when it comes to Battlefield 2042. I guess the future will tell us pretty soon. But the classics are still out there, gaining some new players once more, and take the opportunity therefore to play them if you can. With that said, we're getting to the end of the video, so I want to say thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, please leave a like, and if you want to watch more FPS content on my channel, then feel free to subscribe for some more stuff. Now have a great day, and hope to talk to you soon again. Later.
I can patch your wounds. First aid. First aid for you. You want me to patch your wounds?